Welcome back. After. When Hannah wakes up, it's with the feeling that something is different. It's not the fact that the bed is empty. That happened every Wednesday, Hannah's day off, and Lane to working Saturdays in the shop. On Wednesday, Will put his phone under his pillow so that his alarm doesn't disturb me and tiptoes out of bed before she wakes. It's not just the fact that she's pregnant and the strange feelings that go with that. The odd morning stiffness, the heaviness in her body, the feeling of queasiness that she has never quite gotten under control, in spite of what the books say about when it's supposed to end. No, it's something else. She knows that even in the day's aftermath of sleep, before the events of yesterday come rushing back to her. Now she lies there staring at the ceiling, trying to work out how she feels. Wednesdays are usually a treat, a chance to catch up on errands, call into town, or increasingly as her pregnancy has progressed, just spend a day lollying around their sunny Muse flat, doing nothing in a kind of lazy trance. But today, the thought of sitting by herself in the empty flat, Will at work, nothing but the news and the yawning Google search bar to distract her is intolerable. It's not that there isn't stuff she could be doing. She could be researching proms or building a flat pack crib that has been sitting propped in the corner of their bedroom for the last 6 weeks. But somehow she can't bring herself to slit open the cardboard boxes. It feels like tempting fate, a presumptuous taking for granted of a future she has learned the hard way not to rely on. But she can't lie there thinking like that. Instead, she gets up, pulls on her dressing gown, and goes through to the kitchen, rubbing the sleep from the corners of her eyes as she makes the one coffee she's allowed these days. Will has left the radio on, as he often does when running out to catch an early meeting. She hasn't really been paying attention, but now something the newscaster is saying snags at her, and she leans across the counter to turn up the volume. Has died in prison, age 63. Neville, who was convicted in 2012 of the killing of Oxford University student April Clark Clevenden. Hannah's hand shoots for the off button, cursing her own stupidity, but it's too late. As the room falls silent, she finds her hands is shaking. She can't stay here. She has to get out. It's drizzling in the park, but the rain provides a kind of comforting cocoon as she walks slowly down a leafy avenue in her Mac. When she and Will moved into Stockbridge a few years ago, it was the hip artistic district of Edinburgh, still relatively affordable compared to Newtown. If anything in central Edinburgh could really be called affordable. But the area has grown up with them, its village vibe luring in young families alongside the bars and coffee shops. And now the streets are filled with bumps and buggies. Or it seemed that way to Hannah. Maybe it's just her own bump making her see the world with different eyes. There are children in the park today, despite the weather, stomping about in wellies and clambering across dripping rope bridges, while their resigned parents and carers huddle under the covers of the trees doing their supervisions from a distance. Hannah comes to a halt under the shelter of a big yew, watching them when her phone goes. She pulls it out of her pocket, wipes the mist from her glasses, and glances cautiously at the caller ID. But it's okay. She picks up. Hi, Mom. Hello, love. Is it your day off? Did I get it right? Hannah smiles. Her day off has always been Wednesday, for all of the 9 years she's worked at Tall Tales, but for some reason her mother could never seem to remember that. Yes, I'm in the park. How are you? Her mother ignores the question. I'm driving, so sorry if I cut out. I'm on hands-free, but are you okay? I felt worried after you rang off yesterday. I shouldn't have ambushed you at work. No, it's fine. Hannah watches a little girl evade her father and run gleefully into a huge muddy puddle at the foot of the slide. You were right. It was better I heard it from you. Did you get any trouble? Why was she getting in trouble? She means journalists. Oh, okay. She means journalists, doorsteppers, cold calls. Hannah knows. In the early days, it was a swarm. When they came back to Dodsworth in those first few awful weeks after April's death, her mother had wooden shutters installed on the ground floor of their home so people couldn't peer through the curtains, and a brush on the inside of the letterbox. Hannah remembers them calling through the door. Any comment, Miss Jones? Is Hannah here? What would you like to say to John Neville if you met him? Not really, she says now. Just an email, nothing I couldn't handle. And how's Will? That's a more complicated question, and Hannah pauses. How is Will? I think he's okay, she say at last. You know what he's like. He clams up whenever it comes up, but we talked about it a bit last night. I think he's just relieved it's over mainly. He needs counseling, Hannah mom says severely. You both do. Hannah rolls her eyes. This is a discussion they've had before. In fact, she did have a few counseling sessions after the court case, and it helped in some ways. Gave her tools to deal with the panic attacks and unhealthy behavior patterns. It was the counselor who suggested the requests folder on her phone so she could mentally put the emails away until she was ready to move on from them. But she got everything useful out of the sessions and then got out. And Will, she certainly can't imagine Will sitting in some office talking about his feelings. I know, we have talked about it. We're just a bit busy right now. You know, work, the baby. Will's working really long hours at the moment. He's barely ever home before 7. He should be looking after his pregnant wife, her mom says, and Hannah feels a rush of annoyance. It's not his fault. He's hardly choosing to work 12-hour days, but there's a partnership position coming up. He needs to be seen to be putting in the hours if he's going to be in with a chance. And God knows they need the money before the baby comes, though she doesn't say that to her mother. Kathy is the nicest employer in the world, but the shop barely makes a profit. Hannah will be getting the statutory minimum maternity pay, and that's it. Kathy can't afford anymore. And although Will has a reasonable salary, once they pay their mortgage, there really isn't much left. If Will can make partner before she goes on leave, they will both breathe easier. I thought I'd come up in a couple of weeks, her mom is saying. Hannah can hear the tick-tock of the indicator over the car speaker. Help you out, cook you both a few meals. Faiza at work gave me some absolutely lovely maternity clothes. There's a really good coat. She said take what you want and charity shop the rest. I'll bring them up when I come. That sounds lovely, Hannah said. I'll try to get a day off maybe. What date are you thinking? She waits for the answer, but it doesn't come. And when she looks down at the phone, the call has ended. Great. Presumably, her mom had driven through a dead spot. The rain had stopped, and she leaves the shelter of the yew tree and walks across to the gate to the playground, pulled as if magnetized by the little group of kids and their parents. There's a strict limit to how long a lone adult can watch children playing, she discovered. About 5 minutes before you start to get glances, maybe 10 before someone comes over and asks if you're looking for someone. Though her growing belly gives her something of an alibi now, women are more likely to smile sympathetically than glance suspiciously, and some will even start up a conversation. Do you know what you're expecting? Or, when's the wee one due? Poor Will has no such leeway though, and if they're out together, he pulls her past the park when she stops, lingering trying to imagine her future here. Will's future. Now she watches a father pushing a little girl dutifully on a swing, rain still beating his hood, and she has a sharp, almost painful flash forward to a possible future. Herself standing at this gate, watching Will, her husband, pushing their child in the same swing. She's standing there, holding her breath, trying to imagine her perfect future in this perfect life with this perfect man, when her phone rings again. "Mom," she says, "we got cut off." "Is that Hannah Jones?" says a male voice. "You don't know me. I'm a reporter with..." Hannah almost drops her mobile. Then she stabs the end call button with a shaking finger and stands looking down at the phone in her hand. For the truth is this, and she will never escape it. Her perfect life has come at a price. Mostly she thinks of herself as unbelievably lucky to be here in this beautiful city with the only man she has ever really loved. But now, with the reporter's voice ringing in her ears, she has a different feeling that she is living a stolen life. Not just one she never deserved, but one that was never supposed to be hers. For what would have happened if April had not left the bar alone and gone up to their room to change? What would have happened if Hannah had followed her just 5 minutes earlier, discovered Neville in the room, interrupted the attack? Would she have ended up dead too? Or would April have been alive, living with Will, carrying his child? It starts to rain again as she shoves the phone into her pocket and begins to walk past the playground towards the road, with the children's cries following her as she goes. And she wonders, maybe it wasn't only John Neville who stole April's life. Maybe she has done the same before. Hannah Jones, I presume. The professor, sitting in front of her, swung round in his rotating chair and held out a hand. He was younger than Hannah had expected, with dark hair swept casually across his brow in a style that reminded her of someone, though she couldn't quite place who. Byron, perhaps, or a young Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Definitely a minor romantic poet. The white silk scarf tucked into his tweed jacket only added to the look. "Dr. Myers, I will be taking you to Victorian literature this term, and then we will be covering some of the earlier 20th century material in Hilary and Trinity terms. Did you receive the reading list I sent through?" "I did," Hannah said. It had been intimidating, to say the least, with the strong intimidation that if she didn't at least start on the reading over the summer break, she was unlikely to keep up during term time. "Thanks," she added belatedly. "I'm sorry I'm late. I went to the wrong place." "Ah," Dr. Myers shuffled some papers in front of him and smiled at her. "Stairwell 7, yes? Those are my rooms, and very nice rooms they are too, but rather small. So the college was kind enough to give me a separate office for tutorials. It's a little bit tucked away, I know." "Just a bit," Hannah said with a laugh. She was still finding her way in the Libertine Passage and back offices of Pelham. "I actually had to ask a porter for directions." "I hope he was helpful," Dr. Myers said dryly. "The porters can be a little bit jobsworth about that sort of thing." "Oh no, he was very helpful," Hannah said. "He brought me right here, to the door in fact. I'm not sure I would have found it otherwise." Good," Dr. Myers said, though Hannah had the impression that he had moved on to other things. "Well, as you know, we'll be meeting weekly for those tutorial sessions alongside your lectures. And they will be a chance for us to really drill down into your understanding of the subject. You will normally have a tutorial partner, but I like to begin with a one-to-one to really allow us to get to know each other. Who are you, Hannah Jones? What do you want from Oxford? Tell me about the real you." He leaned forward towards her, steepling his fingers, looking at her seriously over the tops of his horn-rimmed glasses. Hannah was taken aback. Who was she? What did that mean? She already felt increasingly that she was a different person here from the one she had been at home. Different from the girl who sang self-consciously along with ABBA on the car journey up here with her mother. Different from the geeky student she had been at school at Dodsworth. Different even from the person who had walked through that stone archway on the very first day. Only deep inside herself was she the same, in the private inner Hannah that she didn't show to anyone. The Hannah who rolled her eyes at April excessive and secretly enjoyed films like Clueless and Legally Blonde. I told you, Auntie, she ain't really like April. The Hannah who thought D.H. Lawrence was unreadable and pretentious. The Hannah who bit off her split ends and ate peanut butter out of a jar and did all of the myriad other strange and unadmirable things that people did in the privacy of their own company. Did she say bit off her split ends? I'm not sure what you want to know, she said slowly. And then, as Dr. Myers only looked at her over his glasses, I'm an only child. My parents are divorced, but amicably. I don't see my dad much at the moment. He lives in Norfolk with his new wife. My mom teach A-level physics. I come from a town on the south coast called Dodsworth. You won't know it. She gave a deprecating laugh, trying to figure the right adjective for Dodsworth. It's not a hellhole or anything. It's just really boring. It's got nothing going for it, really. No culture. Even the library closed down last year. She stopped, trying to think of what else to say. What could she possibly tell him that he would be interested in? About her bog standard comprehension school with its used textbooks and pill and paint and total lack of any kind of character or history or record of academic excellence? Nothing about Dodsworth or her education there was likely to impress a man who had sat opposite students from the best private school in the country. She felt again the crushing sense of imposter syndrome she had experienced when she first walked through the gates of Pelham for her interview, trying not to think of the thousands of other students who were applying for the same place as hers, 18-year-olds just like her, but ones who came from storied institutions and famous families, and who walked confidently into Pelham with the air of already belonging here. While she was still trying to convince herself of that fact, even as she knocked on the door of the interview room. But hard on the heels of that came a flicker of something. Not anger exactly, but something close. So what if she went to a state school? So what if Dodsworth had no culture and no history? Didn't that make her leap to Oxford more impressive? She had been accepted here after all, when many of those confident, shiny-haired students who had strolled past her on the first day had not. She sat up straighter. I was the only person in my year at school to apply for Oxford. I'm the first person in my family to come here too. In fact, my dad doesn't even have a degree. He's a builder who left education when he was 16. I did volunteer to feed underprivileged kids in my gap year or spend my summer digging wells. I spent my summer working in a supermarket. As you may have guessed, I don't always feel like I fit in here, but I'm determined to prove I belong. Dr. Myers said nothing for a long moment, but then he sat back in his chair and began clapping, slowly but steadily. "Bravo, Hannah Jones," he said at last. "Bravo. I think we're going to get along very well, you and I. Very well indeed." At the end of the hour-long tutorial, Hannah felt a strange mixture of drained and elated. Dr. Myers had taken her painstakingly back through her A-level syllabus and then gotten her to itemize the further reading she'd done in her own time, drawing out her opinions on everyone from Jane Austen to Benjamin Zephaniah. As the tutorial drew to a close, she had the sensation of having undergone a pummeling mental workout as tiring as anything in the school gym. "Until next week then," Dr. Myers said with a smile. "And when you come back, I'd like you to give me 1,000 words on the role of social anxiety in any of these novels. There's a list of books and essays you may find helpful on the reverse." He handed her a piece of paper, and Hannah glanced down at it and then turned it over to read the other side. She had read all the novels cited, but none of the critical theory essays listed on the back of the page. She had no idea how she was supposed to find the time to do all the further reading between now and next week, but she could worry about that later. "Well, goodbye, Hannah Jones," Dr. Myers says. "Fare thee well, and we shall meet in the Senate." Hannah nodded and turned for the door. When she let herself out into the corridor, the porter who had helped her find Dr. Myers' room was still there, leaning against the wall. It was the man she had met on her first day. Not the grandfatherly one, the other, the one who had given her the keys. I think that's John. "Got the right room this time?" Hannah nodded, suppressing her puzzlement. Had he been outside for the whole tutorial? "Yes, thanks. I don't think I would have found it without your help." "All in a day's work." His voice was just as off-kilter as it had been before, high and reedy in comparison to his stocky 6-foot frame. It sounded as though it belonged to a much smaller, frailer man. "Where are you off to now, then?" Hannah hadn't really thought about it. "I don't know. The library, I guess." She glanced at the list of books Dr. Myers had handed her. The porter nodded. "This way, then." "Oh," Hannah flushed, realizing that he intended to take her. "No, I mean, I know where it is, honestly. You don't need to walk me." "Can't have the students getting lost on my watch," the porter said, and Hannah found herself flushing again, her cheeks hot. She felt annoyed, angry at her own stupid embarrassment, but also at this porter for being so weird and patronizing and for not taking the hint that she didn't need his help. Was he really going to accompany her all the way to the library? Why? Exactly. "I don't need you to walk me," she said again, but the words sounded feeble and hollow, particularly as she had no choice but to follow him down the stairs from Dr. Myers' room, there being no other exit. In the end, it seemed easier just to let him tag along, however strange she felt. Being escorted across the quad and through the cloister by a 50-something man in a porter's uniform. When they got to the door of the library, she said goodbye with some relief, silently vowing to leave by a different exit. Thank goodness there were several. "Thank you. Honestly, you didn't have to." "My pleasure," the porter said. He put out his hand. John Neville. See, that's who he was. "You need anything at all? Just ask for me." "Okay," Hannah said. She took his hand in spite of a twinge of reluctance. It was cold and soft and a little damp, like touching raw bread dough. "Thanks." He held her grip just a little too long, just like he did them keys. When at last he let go, she tried to walk with dignity into the library rather than flee in. But when she got up to the first floor, she could not stop herself going to a window overlooking the cloister to check if he was still there. To her relief, he was not. He was walking away across the lawns back to the porter's lounge, and Hannah returned to the vaulted reading room with a sigh of relief. For the next few hours, she was kept busy tracking down books and navigating the library's unfamiliar shelving system. But something about the encounter had shaken her, and as she sat down at the polished oak desk, the books piled up around her, it came back to her. The sensation of his cold, soft fingers on hers, and the sound of his reedy voice in her ears. She was being silly. He was probably just lonely, just a lonely middle-aged man with no talent for taking a graceful brush off. But one thing was for sure. She had absolutely no intention of asking John Neville for help ever again. Dun, 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 dun. And here we go. We know John was that man, and he was 50-something years old. That's the man who, I was like, is John the one who won't let go of the keys when she came to move in? So that's John Neville. He's a creep. He was a creep then. He's a creep now because she a teenager. And what you doing, sir? Sir, stop. But, okay, so now, John likes, my goodness, Hannah, okay? Hannah despised April. April and Will are together. Now, here's another thought. I think I might have mentioned it too. Did Hannah use John to kill April and so she can get Will? Get April out of the picture so she can get Will. And she set up John to go to jail to take the blame for it? She's still suspect number one. John is suspect number two. If he did it for Hannah. Okay, so that's the end of this chapters. I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.